Hey, how come my penis gets big sometimes and points up in the air?
That's called an erection.
Sometimes I touch my penis because it feels good.
Sometimes, when I'm in my bath or when Mom puts me to bed, I like to touch my vulva too.
Don't get angry with that, or you might find yourself on the FBI's domestic terror list. So as many of you know, just from being alive for the past year and a half or so, school boards around the country are under siege, and rightfully so. They're being recalled, and I'll give you the numbers on the recalls in just a few, but they're being recalled at epic levels, okay? And the reason they're being recalled is because they've been discovered to have been doing things that are absolutely disgusting, that are nothing short of disgusting. You know, for decades, first of all, we've been telling you this forever, right? That this, for those of us who, and we love all of you, who follow the channel and know what we've been putting out and what our messaging has been, the fact that the re-education of America and our generations of youth has been going on for decades and slowly compiling is now coming to light. And parents are starting to see this, and they're showing up in droves. They're showing up as they start to demand to see the reading materials that are not being brought home, that are not being released and given to the children to take home with them. And all the stories that the children, now that they're being asked, are admitting to, where, you know, you don't need to tell your parents about this. You don't need to bring this home. Here's this really sick questionnaire with all kinds of sexual questions on it for you, middle schooler. But don't worry, this is not something you need to discuss with your parents. And the parents are hearing the stories and they're reading the materials. And just to give you an idea, if you have been in the dark, here's an example of some of the reading material that's been distributed.
Jasper wasn't even my boyfriend, just this dude I did some hacking with once in a while. He was pretty basic library systems, low security shit. Not in my league at all, but he had a big and sometimes a girl just needs a big.
He tiptoed toward the door, peering through the window at the boy, his pants around his ankles squeezed between April's straddled legs as she lay on top of a teacher's desk. I gripped his arms and flipped him around, pushing him against the wall. His eyes widened, mouth dropping. "Hey, what are you doing?" He chuckled nervously. I took a deep breath before dropping on my shaky knees, the ground cold.
Me and Monday, we did something. We did do something. He took a deep breath. She sucked my. I really didn't want it to happen. It just kind of did.
Hey, how come my penis gets big sometimes and points up in the air?
That's called an erection.
Sometimes I touch my penis because it feels good.
Sometimes, when I'm in my bath or when Mom puts me to bed, I like to touch my vulva too.
Okay? Clearly, this type of material is child porn. Young children performing sex acts. This is not cool. This is not only is this not cool, this is a major problem, and this is exactly the type of thing that will enrage the hell out of a mama bear, or a papa bear for that matter, and get them to go to school boards and start throwing these bums out. All right? And now they're scrambling. Now the cockroaches are running because they don't know what to do. They've been functioning for so long without parents being aware of what's going on that now they think the parents literally are terrorists. That's what it's descended to. Okay? And they're twisting hyperbole into being literal so that they can try and make the case that they're getting threats. But the fact of the matter is, when you read these things, and I'm going to show you some of them, when you read these things, you can clearly see how there's like a 90% chance that this is hyperbole and not physical threats. Okay? But even if they were physical threats, the NSBA, the National School Board Association, which is not a government entity, it's a lobbying firm for school boards. I don't even know why the hell there is a lobbying firm for school boards, but there is. And this lobbying firm, which is probably the head of this snake, okay, and that is probably the director of all of this madness and critical theory, all right, they've now petitioned the federal government to treat parents who are upset about these disgusting teachings that are going on in their classrooms, who are upset because they're authorizing the teaching of racial segregation, who are upset because they're absolutely anti-unity okay, and are teaching their children to see everyone by their color as their main, or their color or culture or whatever, as their main defining feature, who are upset because they are not teaching these children that they are all Americans. They are not teaching these children that they're growing up in the greatest country on earth. No, they're teaching these children Marxist principles under the guise of words like equity and instead of equality. Okay, so they're teaching them equal outcomes instead of equal opportunities. These kids are growing up, many of whom have already grown up into adults and are now preaching this stuff. And the idea behind keeping this from parents and why it's been going on for decades is because the whole idea of this is to create that wedge. All right. Right now, the wedge needs to be created. I would say Generation X and up, all right, needs to be separated from anything millennial and down. All right. They don't want these kids talking to their parents about these issues. As a matter of fact, they tell the kids that they're smarter than their parents because we're educating you better. Your parents think that old history. Your parents think that old stuff.
Most of y'all parents are dumber than you. I'm going to say that out loud.
So parents are up in arms everywhere. And here's some of the accusations, right? So here's some of the stuff. First, I want to show you what they want, all right? So this is a letter to the federal government, Department of Justice. Right? It says, as these acts of malice, violence, and threats against public school officials have increased, the classification of these heinous actions could be the equivalent to a form of domestic terrorism or hate crimes. All right. So what they're asking for is a joint expedited review by the U.S. Department of Justice, Education, and Homeland Security. They want Homeland Security involved in this, but they're not done yet because, these parents are so dangerous, right? So they're not done yet. They want the FBI involved too. All right? So keep in mind, this would be laughable if it wasn't for the fact that the FBI actually responded with a memo that stated they're going to look into this. What are they looking into? Well, let's see. In this memo, now mind you, this is an organization who covers every single school board in the country. All right, they're a lobbyist firm who covers every school board in the country. So you would think that these heinous acts would be pretty damaging, right? Maybe bomb threats or, something to get the feds involved, right? Something more than locality crimes. Well, an individual was arrested in Illinois for aggravated battery and disorderly conduct. Really? We got the Department of Homeland Security now getting involved with aggravated battery because that's the worst thing that they list. That's the worst, most violent thing that they list, and they don't even tell you what the actual act was. They're just telling you they were arrested for aggravated battery. Disorderly conduct is nonsense. Okay, disorderly conduct just means somebody was pissed. And you can bet there could be a lot of people arrested for disorderly conduct. Not by the feds, though. So during 2 separate school board meetings in Michigan, an individual yelled a Nazi salute in protest to masking requirements. So think of what that scenario would have looked like, right? Because they're painting a picture here like that parent is the Nazi, which is disgusting. But that's what they're doing, right? They're wording this to make it sound like he was yelling a Nazi salute in support of Nazism and not calling them Nazis, which is, I guarantee you, is exactly what was going down, all right? But this is why they need the Department of Homeland Security to label these parents terrorists, all right? I mean, this use of hyperbole and twisting it into being literal is disgusting. It's almost as disgusting as the child pornography that they're pumping into our children's literature, okay? And here we have another individual who who forced the board to call a recess because of opposition to critical race theory. So message to parents, stop calling it critical race theory. They've moved on from that term. So when they tell you, if you call the board or you call the superintendent, et cetera, and you ask them, do you have critical race theory courses? They're going to tell you no. I went through this, okay? But then I got materials from them from a language arts class with a focus on social justice. As soon as you hear social justice, right away, you know that there's critical theory in there. And sure enough, in the literature, in the curriculum that he gave me, it's clearly stated critical theory was being taught. Okay, So it is critical race theory, but don't call it that because you're giving them an avenue to say we don't do it. Say critical theory, or you'd like to know more about their equity programs, because that's where all the poison is. So here's another one. All right. So in a letter that was written to the Board of Education, the correspondent stated that we're coming after you and all the members on the Board of Education. This hate mail continues by saying you're forcing them to wear masks for no reason in this world other than control. And for that, you will pay dearly. Again, this one maybe will lower to 85% chance. It's complete hyperbole and talking about their jobs, not their physical well-being. Okay, and why would I think such a thing? Well, because they go on after stating that the member called them a filthy traitor. They implied loss of pension funds, and they labeled the school board as Marxist. Okay, so the loss of pension funds tells you right there that they're talking about getting them out. They're talking about removing them from their positions, and parents around the country are now starting to get engaged and run for these school board positions because they're taking our education system back. All right, they're taking it back. And that's a good thing because these people who have been running it are a hot mess. And the fact of the matter is, while this process takes place, Americans need to understand, number one, no matter what your race, ethnicity, or anything else, you are an American. You're 100% an American. God bless you, brother, sister, whatever. You're down. You're in. You're in with the greatest country ever to bless this earth. So whatever these people have taught you, whatever they've tried to poison your head with, understand that there's no ethnicity tied to being a patriot. There's nothing to do with anyone's ethnicity ever. It has all to do with an understanding of true history, none of which is being taught in our schools, including civics. So unfortunately, you're in the situation that many people are, where you've got to go learn it on your own. And you've got to go learn the history of this government and how it works on your own. So I want to get quickly to the reason why they're so upset. And, but as soon as I do that, before I do that, I want you to hear from Simon Campbell, if you haven't heard from him before, as he went in to actually defend parents who were belittled. And you can watch this in our earlier episodes. We put up a video on this one. They went in and belittled the parents. The school board was absolutely abusive, like verbally abusive to them. And we've got it all. We'll show you all of it. And Simon Campbell just showed up there. He was a former board member and went in there and just absolutely killed them. For YouTube's sake, he didn't actually kill them. He just yelled at them and made some points that defended the parents. Okay, so now that we're clear that I'm not accusing Simon Campbell as a murderer, because that's the world we live in today, let's go ahead and hear what he had to say about whether or not these types of things being said about board members is a problem, because he clearly cites Supreme Court case literature that says it's absolutely not.
Personally direct your comments. You will
Let
be
me
asked
be very
to
clear.
step away from the podium.
I'm going to
I am
quote
asking
to you,
again,
solicitor.
make your comments,
I'm
but
quoting.
do not
Just
do
a minute.
name
Do not
calling
talk
like
over
you
me.
just did.
This is my comment, not your comment. I'm quoting to you now from the United States Supreme Court 1964 case, New York Times versus Sullivan. This is constitutional case law in this country, and I'm quoting you from the U.S. Supreme Court. The judges wrote that this nation is founded on the, quote, profound national commitment to the principle that debate on public issues shall be uninhibited, robust, and wide open, and that it may well include vehement, caustic, and sometimes unpleasantly sharp attacks on government and public officials. That's constitutional case law in this nation. I don't have to be nice to you. Nobody behind me has to be nice to you. If you don't like living in the United States of America, then you can all move to Russia, Cuba, or China. This is the First Amendment.
Okay, well said, Simon. And now to Ballotpedia. So Ballotpedia, what you're looking at right now are school board recalls year by year from 2018. And there's a link below where you could go look at every year going back. And in 2006, 7, and 8, by the way, there were like single digits. And then all of a sudden, it started to raise into the 20s and the 30s. and stayed around the 30s, 20 to 30, until this year. This year, it's on. And we're dropping these people like flies, and parents are absolutely taking their country back and taking their education system back. And this National School Board Association is paranoid because they're soon to have absolutely no control over the school boards. And that's exactly where we need to be. That's exactly where we need to be as Americans. So God bless these patriots all over the country who are stepping up and giving them hell. Now, YouTube, not real hell. They're not actually bringing hell to the school board. They're just getting upset and voicing their First Amendment rights. Okay, good. So now that I've cleared up that they're not actually bringing hell and Satan into the classroom because, well, Satan, many would argue, is already there. The fact is they're taking back their school systems and they're running for these positions. These are all elected positions and they're well within their rights to go in there. They don't have to be nice to them. They don't have to be polite. It is not illegal to be impolite. Yet they can call them Marxists, especially when they are Marxists, and they should be charging these people with child porn charges. And there's one city that is where the mayor actually sat down, I believe it was Hudson, and the mayor actually sat in front of the school board and told them he had just left a judge where he was getting advice and showed him the material, and the judge absolutely agreed that that was child pornography. And so he gave them an ultimatum to leave or be charged. They have not left, so stay tuned because that should be an interesting story. I would love nothing more than for this board, these Board of Education members to be brought up on child porn charges. The house of cards has fallen, folks. It's fallen because of us. We're aware now. Day by day, more and more people are waking up. Day by day. Let's get as many people to see the truth as humanly possible. That's how we do it. So let's get it done. Let's spread the message. Let's keep turning these school boards and let's take our children back. I'm out.
And like that,